going on, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Freight Gong Friday. Rita and I will be going without Paul today. What's up, Reed?
Dude, it's been 1 week since I've had Zen, and
Really?
I'm really fiending right now. I'll be honest.
Is it just are you trying to get off of it? Zen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm having surgery on in 2 weeks, and the doctor was like, if you're like using nicotine, it can like hurt your recovery. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just stop for now.
Damn.
And so I finished my last one last week, and I just haven't bought any more.
How's the
It actually hasn't been that bad. It's not really been that bad. I've kind of just forgotten, but I'm definitely like in the mornings when I've got coffee and I'm sitting out here in my office, I'm definitely just like, you know what, it would be really nice right now to just lock in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
I'm just really glad this stuff didn't exist when I was like doing the freight brokerage stuff, because oh yeah, I mean, dude, I mean, I would have literally been there all day, like all day, and luckily it didn't exist. So that's,
I mean, I definitely know a bunch of people that quit smoking cigarettes, you know, at least from it. So I would say just from that perspective, it's great that it's like come around and become more popular. But I don't know, from overall, like, I don't know, some people have like differing opinions about it. Like I know like the Founders Fund guys, like they're one of the founders. He's the founder or one of the,
he's Lucy. Yeah, I know.
Entrepreneur in residence, John Coogan. He's a founder of Lucy, which has been pretty popular. I think they have like literally vending machines that they ship.
I know. I bought some of his when they came out with that like Excel one that was like literally just like a different wrapper, I guess. I fell into the trap of buying those because they made like a cool video, so I bought some.
I haven't tried those yet, but I don't know how, since you've tried them, how do they compare like with Zins? Do you prefer them or which ones?
They were much softer. Like they felt very like cushiony. So when you engage, you're like, wow, this is very pleasant. But I don't think that the highs weren't as high. It was much more like this.
Got it. Mellow,
if you will.
Yeah, balance.
I gotta blow my nose once.
Sure. There was a couple of things that, like one particular thing that recently came out, which I wanted to get your thoughts on, Reed, which was, did you see the news, the Uber Freight news, where they were launching I think it's called broker access. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, well, Silver did his post about it. And I mean, it makes sense to me, like that it's double brokering. I don't know. Well, who am I to define what double brokering is? I mean, I think it's fairly accepted that if you are a broker and you give your load to another broker to go find a carrier, then that's like double brokering. But sometimes they call it co-brokering as long as everyone is aware of it and there's paperwork signed, I guess. So in this situation, like, are the shippers who are giving XYZ broker their freight like, oh, what up, Bob?
What's up? Bob, we're gonna have to mute you from time to time because there's some background noise. But just unmute yourself when you want to say something. That's cool. That's gonna be tough. Okay. I'm gonna share my screen just so people have context of the.
Bob, do you book loads with Uber Freight?
Uber Freight, yeah, a lot actually. I got a really good guy inside now.
So but you don't, do you use the app or the website, or you just work with this guy?
No, I use the website. I mean, I use the app too, but
we lost Bob. You use the app too, and what?
Yeah, now we can.
But when I'm in the office, I use obviously the website, you know. But when I'm at home, I'm just scrolling through the app. Why? What are you guys talking about Uber?
They launched a new service called Broker Access. It's basically a capacity as a service, but for just brokers.
Uh-huh.
And Andrew Silver, well, there's some back and forth debate online basically around like whether or not it's double brokering essentially. Andrew Silver wrote a long post, and I think Grace Sharkey chimed in too on it, and maybe there's a couple of other people, but Andrew basically was saying that this was more or less just like
Co-brokering.
well, double brokering. But yeah, the case again, the opposite case was being made that it was actually just co-brokering.
Right.
And so I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Well,
I know you're
so
getting the brokerage side of things, Bob, right?
yeah, so I've seen on Uber where actually it's not Uber, it's on Uber website that it's posting, other brokers are posting. So their name will be on it. Like the actual broker names. I think last time I saw it was like Torque Brokerage or something like that was posted under Uber's website, which was, I thought it was pretty interesting. I'm like, damn, if they're gonna do that, honestly, I think it's kind of a good thing because I think it's gonna almost like compete with DAT. You know, if they're gonna allow other brokers to post on their board, it's gonna be a new platform for brokers to book loads.
Yeah, I mean,
Which I
it's
think,
literally just like it's just a load board. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, it's not just a load board. Like it is the load board, but like obviously they've got like their whole kind of tech solution, which
yeah,
is kind of above and beyond the functionality of what folks normally attribute with a load board, you know? I mean,
yeah,
Convoy is doing the same thing. I mean, Convoy had set up like their program before they went bankrupt. They had
uh-huh,
that program Convoy for brokers, which is like I think the same exact thing, literally. And then
yeah,
when they sold to Flexport, they transitioned to just doing this, which is what Andrew says in this post. So now they're no longer a broker. They literally are just this kind of conduit for
yeah.
brokers to post their loads and basically just run them through the Convoy app. So I mean, I don't
Well,
know.
what fundamentally is different about this compared to, I mean, compared to DAT? I guess
Well,
DAT is really more so just
You
like a
don't track
personal
your
price.
freight in DAT. You
Yeah.
don't like drivers aren't using the DAT app for status updates and for uploading paperwork and for all that stuff,
yeah,
right?
no, Uber Freight is pretty, it's pretty high tech and it's pretty like what's nice. I mean, I actually like Uber Freight. A lot of people hate Uber Freight, but I actually like Uber Freight. They're cheap. The prices are super cheap on Uber Freight, but if you have somebody in and if they need to move a load, they'll pay a lot more. So that's one thing about Uber Freight. That's what I like. And I have a good rep. You just have to find a good rep that is willing to kind of, pull some strings and actually reach out to whoever the customer is and be like, hey, can you pay a little bit more on this lane? But it's been good so far. I don't know. I really like it. I think actually they have a really good future, to be honest.
There we go. Straight from the
Yeah.
horse's mouth.
What's up, Alex?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Who is this guy?
Who's this guy?
What's up?
What's
What's up,
good?
Alex?
Short notice.
Yeah,
Alex, do you have any opinion on this?
We're actually working on a potential partnership with Uber Freight. So they're the best company out there. You should use them, work with them.
This guy likes
Oh yeah.
announcing things before they happen too.
That too. No, I mean, look, it's evolution. Everyone's finding little things to go into and testing them, and if it works, they stick with it. If they don't, then you keep going. That's
Yeah,
tech for you.
I think I was talking with somebody a couple months ago too, and this was to me a very easy way. This was a very obvious thing for me from my vantage point to be done, and since Reed, you mentioned Convoy was already doing this, I guess it's already proven the point that somebody's already been doing this and figured out a way to make it possible for brokers to reach even more capacity than the capacity that they already have, which honestly, it's I don't know if I would call it double brokering. If basically if it's like a service fee that you're paying, like a software subscription to a platform to be able to post loads, then I can't really see entirely how your that would even be like double brokering, because it's not really transferring responsibility like to somebody else, unless I'm understanding it incorrectly. Bob, like would that be, Bob, are you transferring, you're not transferring responsibility, like as a broker, you're not transferring responsibility to Uber Freight when you're posting a load as a broker, right?
No, I don't think so. I'm sure they have a contract signed or something before Uber probably onboards them. I'm sure they have some agreement signed. Like, I think it's actually more of like a co-brokering, you know? I think Arrive
Probably
board does the same thing, if I'm not mistaken. I think Arrive lets other brokers post on their board. I could be wrong, but you guys can look it up. From what I understand, an Arrive board is super, super nice too. It's very, I would say Arrive and Uber board is probably one of the top boards out there. Coyote used to have a really good one, but Coyote kind of fell off really hard. So
Coyote had a board that brokers could post to too.
no, not brokers could post, but just in general for carriers that they could use, you
That
know?
was called what? Coyote Go, I think.
Yeah, Coyote Go. Yeah, yeah,
Uber Freight. Trying to see here.
Hey, Bob,
yeah.
what'd you think of that new Volvo, dude?
Oh yeah.
Dude, it's pretty sick, honestly. I almost bought it, but the guy didn't make a deal with me. It's expensive though. So it's like 20,000 more. This one was 205,000. He like negotiated it. I told him 193. He said 199.
Damn,
But
192 for
yeah,
brand new Volvo.
yeah.
Damn, those Uber Freight loads must be paying pretty good, bro.
I mean,
Man,
dude,
it's so
you get it
high.
financed. Everything gets financed. You don't pay cash, you know.
Oh, God. Wow,
And just that.
the prices for new trucks like basically didn't really come down that much like since COVID, right? Like straight from factory.
Yeah, no. So the older body styles, like the last couple I got were for about 170. And now you could get trucks like the older body style for like probably 165, brand new ones, you know. But these have like this one was completely loaded out. So it had all the, you know, bells and whistles. This thing had like 8 airbags in the back. I mean, this thing is super sweet. But the thing is you're going to be kind of with with the new with the new truck, you're going to be kind of like a guinea pig on it, you know, because you don't they changed so much. I think like 80% of this truck is all brand new parts, brand new everything. So you're
I
going to
saw
be
you.
kind of like a yeah,
You
you're
got
going
a
to be
remote to lift up the truck,
yeah,
like airbags.
yeah. That was pretty sweet. I was like surprised. I was like, what is this for? But I don't get like what you would use it for unless a Swift driver crashes under a bridge and they need to lower the suspension, you know?
Yeah.
Well, then you got bigger problems. Like I don't think that's gonna take care of it. You still got the trailer, right?
Yeah.
No, you could just lower that too, you know.
This is pretty sweet. I thought this was pretty sweet too, where you can like
Yeah.
lower
Block off the haters.
Do you have all Volvos right now, Bob?
No, not all of it, but it's mostly Volvos. We used to do Kenworths, and now we're kind of slowly switching to Volvos.
What was the
Um,
reason for that? Just out of curiosity.
we're Europeans, and more Europeans like Volvos.
All
You know,
European
like
drivers
a lot.
love it.
Yeah,
saying the quiet part out loud.
I mean that's kind of true. Like most like drivers and stuff, they also like Volvos too because it's easier to kind of control it, easier to back up. It has an easier turn radius. Like there's a lot. It's easier to work on. Um, and they're more expensive. They're definitely more expensive than the Kenworths and you would think it's the opposite. You would think that, you know, Kenworths and Peterbilts are more expensive, but they're not.
They
Unless you're like,
yeah, the turning radius was always one that I remember drivers telling me, and then the mirrors as well. But that was like on
yeah.
older trucks. Like this truck still has mirrors, right? They don't have those cameras that look back.
Yeah, so they still have mirrors because in the US, like not every state has passed the law where like you're still required to have mirrors. You cannot not have them. You know, even I think like the Tesla trucks, they still have to have the mirrors.
Damn,
So
still in.
it's about the regulations. That's why. But it's super nice, and I feel like the prices are gonna come down. And I mean, sooner or later. Oh, the difference too is the battery. So now you have all these new Volvos. It's a 24 volt battery, not the 12 volt. So like you can't jump start stuff. I mean, they made a conversion to it, but it's a completely different battery system. It's more like the European battery system. So
What was that?
yeah.
A VNL 670 or a different model?
This one was a 880 VNL 880. So it's
880.
this, yeah.
What, Bob? How's the market treating you these days, bro?
Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's shit. You know. The South is really bad, like Charlotte area, like where we're out of coming out of. It's super super bad. But I mean, Cali picked up. Cali's good. North, like Ohio area is pretty good. So it depends where you are and where you're going. But the South is really bad. Like nobody wants to come down south unless they're paying a lot of money to come down here because there's nothing coming out. So
Bob, did you try just? I mean, I obviously have to ask, but did you try like any of those safety features? Like, were they still pretty annoying?
no, at the new truck,
Yeah.
yeah, the Vada. I think it's called Vada, right? Vada. Yeah,
Yep.
Vada. No, that's another thing that they changed. Actually, it's super nice. It's super like it only will beep when there's a like more. You know how the older ones would always just go off and people hated them, the
All the
drivers. Like
time.
this,
Yeah.
yeah. This one is like only when it's like necessary, it'll go off. So that's actually a super
You
sweet
tried
feature.
it yourself, and it was like that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty good.
I'm actually gonna because I talked to them. I actually want to get like a videographer and come and record a whole video, just kind of do a whole thing about it.
That would be pretty
them
sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, these are here. These I'll pull up how the cameras look like on these things here. Basically in the front, you can see here like this is a model without any of the side mirrors, which I don't know if Bob, if you happen to ask like how much fuel efficiency
What are
that
those? What are
has.
those things up top above the
Those are-
windows? What are
Those are
those?
the replacements. Those are cameras that look backwards
Ah,
and like to the side
got
a
it.
little bit.
Yeah.
I got it.
Those, yeah.
Have you driven a truck with that, Bob?
Without the mirrors?
Yeah,
No, this one had mirrors.
I tried it once. I think it was a Freightliner that had it back in 2019. It was like an early like prototype or something like this, and it was pretty. It took a minute to get used to, but I thought it was actually
Yeah.
ended up being like much more revealing. I think like you can
Yeah.
also like, turn the cameras too, which was pretty cool.
Uh-huh.
But
No, I think they're definitely stepping up the game with the new trucks and stuff, which is good. I think it's a really good thing as long as like drivers kind of take advantage of it and use it because some drivers don't really care about all these. Like I was telling to the dealer yesterday, like a lot of drivers don't really care about these bells and whistles. Most drivers are just there to just drive and make the money, and at least our drivers, like they're not really like there and they use every single feature of it. So
And,
how
and avoid it and avoid
but,
as many road calls as possible.
exactly. Are you guys all going to F3? Alex, are you going?
I might go for the day.
I'm
Yeah.
going. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice.
Yeah, Paul and I get in on on Monday, I think around 5 p.m. Something like
I
that.
don't get that press discount.
Yeah.
Are you driving, Bob?
I don't know. I think so, but I'm debating if I should take my pickup truck or if I should just rent the car and go there. Because this thing's gonna eat like I don't know,
Bob's also had bad experiences driving to conferences. So
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You want a
true.
new truck? Take this one.
yeah, if you want a new truck, if Bob wants a new truck, he should drive to the
That's-
conference.
That's messed up, yeah. I'll take the bus there.
Hey, take my car. I
Jesus.
need a new car. Take mine.
As long as you have full coverage on it.
Yeah, I do. I'll take it.
That's funny.
F3 is gonna be fun though. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
There's a decent amount of people going, I think, for F3. I don't know. I don't like the Atlanta one. Usually, from what I've heard, there's not too many people that go.
No,
for
the
that
Chattanooga
one.
one's bigger.
The one in Chattanooga in November has always been the one that we've went to for sure. So
Yeah.
what else? What else is new?
Yeah, I mean, well, now we're gonna talk to Craig about being DOT secretary next week.
Next week we got Craig Fuller. Yeah, we got Craig.
Wait, so
Fuller
Craig is actually becoming a secretary?
No, he's making his case. So
He's gunning for it.
Yeah, he's
Oh,
trying to
okay.
go for it. Well, he's full sending it. That's
Oh, this isn't satire. This is legit.
This is legit. Yeah, this is legit.
Oh.
I mean, he
Wow.
hasn't gotten there hasn't been any talks or anything about whether they would pick him or anything like this. But I thought some of the things that he was proposing were pretty sound. So I reached out to him, and we were supposed to have him on today, but things got conflicted. So we said we'll just do an F3 recap like we did last year, and then we'll also just hear out his case for being DOT secretary.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sweet, to be honest with you.
That would be, yeah. That would be pretty sweet.
Yeah,
How do you guys feel?
I mean, dude, he might. I mean, he might actually. I don't know how these things work, but like, I mean, JD Vance invested in Freightways. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
There's a close ties over there for sure. So it's actually
Yeah.
it's actually probable. There's a good chance, I think. Trying to pull up some of Craig's tweets here.
That's
about
awesome.
some of
How
this
do you
stuff.
guys feel that your girl Kamala lost?
Man, I'm
No,
still
you guys,
I'm still wiping up the tears, bro.
you guys
83% of people in freight just said that they were voting the other way. So I'm not sure where if that matches up here, but according to a poll that we ran, but
We ran a poll about. Oh no, you guys did.
yeah,
Oh,
I did.
I-
On Twitter, I think it was only on Twitter. It might have been on LinkedIn too, but and on Instagram. And like total, I think it was about 300 or 400 people that responded to it. So
Bro,
maybe
What did they say?
83% of people and at
Trump.
least in trade.
yeah, they
it-
voted for
83% of people said what?
That they were voting for Trump in
Oh.
the freight.
The day after the elections, I posted on my LinkedIn. I was like, "God bless USA, the greatest country in the world." I got so many hate messages. Not so many, probably like 5. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Like, I didn't even say Trump or come out. I just said greatest country in the world. I was like, "All right, it's interesting."
So Craig actually posted this. This was absurd to me, and we'll try not to get like super into politics, but this was a wild statistic. So he basically said that 15% of all employees in America
Oh wow.
work for the government. It's about 21 million U.S. voters make their living working for the government. So that's what I think. It's like 1 out of every 5.6 employees in the United States is a government employee, which is
And they're all voting.
wild.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm trying to pull up some more tweets here that he was making for his case.
Talking about he was talking about he's done a couple tweets about the FAA. Apparently they have like 88% of their employees are or excuse me, no, what was it? Was it the DOT has like the FAA is like the vast majority of the DOT? Is that what it was?
I'm trying to find that
Okay,
tweet. It was
I can't remember
crazy amount.
exactly, but
The FAA
basically,
has
like the
crazy amount.
air, like the FAA dominates like the interests, right? Like there's so many regulators in that domain. I don't. He was also talking about like how many new airplane styles are built. Like I just want the supersonic travel back, bro. If he does that, then great.
So
Sign me
there's a
up.
company. There is a company that's
Yeah, I
been
know.
working on
Boom.
Aerospace.
Yeah,
And they were
yeah.
YC company that started. I think it was in 2016, and I think that was the guy's first company ever. But they actually have a single seater plane that they're flying now, which is awesome to see. But I think it was like 2028 was the timeline that they thought they were initially going to launch. I don't know if that's exactly still the same, but
I mean, this thing looks dope.
here's what the plane. I think this is still the concept, but
I mean, it looks kind of like the Concorde. Yeah.
looks very similar. Yeah, like the tip. I think it has to be that way, just simply how fast it goes. But sweet.
I don't
Like
think
Europe to I think it's New York to London would be about 3.5 or 4 hours. So that'd be wild.
I don't think we're gonna do anything if we have this real quick.
What is this?
Pentagon keeps paying 8,000% markup for Boeing's bathroom dispensers.
Hell yeah. You got to
Nice.
make their money somehow, man.
Jeez. The wrong business.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that clip? It's like some dude and some guy in Congress, and there's like a Department of Defense person there, and he's like, "How much do you think this bag of bushings costs?" And it's like just this little plastic bag full of bushings that's like 90 grand apparently.
I did see that.
Yeah.
Bob, question for you. If you could have DOT change one thing, what would it be? It might be.
Honestly, I'm not sure. There's a lot. I would have to ask the drivers what they need to get changed. Probably the logbooks, maybe, right? To give drivers more of their own choice to choose when they want to drive, when they want to stop.
That was actually something that Craig proposed. That was a good one, actually. He was proposing using
the hours of service.
Yeah, he was proposing some partnership with some company that is able to basically measure the biometrics of drivers, and it's a total voluntary thing. It would be a total voluntary thing, but if you measure the biometrics of the drivers, some drivers are maybe more rested than others at different times, and maybe some people need to sleep less and some people need to sleep more. But if the biometrics say that you're well rested, you should be able to keep driving, which I think is all that matters, to be honest.
Yeah.
Unless I'm missing something, but where did he's been tweeting a lot, so now it's like really difficult to like find these tweets. I need to learn how to like search somebody's profile a little bit better here. But does any Reed, do you know how to search real quickly, like add Craig Fuller with some keywords? Let's see if that works. At Craig Fuller.
What's the question?
If you know how to search Twitter really easily, like for keywords from a specific person.
You should ask that Twitter and then tag Elon Musk, and then he will respond to you how to do it.
That would be funny.
He probably would. You never know. Be like, hey, make this feature where it's easier to search for tweets.
Let's see.
Yo, but I gotta run. I gotta book some loads on Uber Freight right now because they got some loads that popped up.
Go post those loads, Bob.
All right, I'll see you guys next. I'll see you guys next week.
See you, man.
I just texted Andrew. Let's see if he comes on. Yeah, Andrew's gonna come on. I'm gonna send him the link right now.
Sure, send him the link.
All right.
Hold up. By the way, I found the
Alex.
FAA tweet real quick. I'll just
hold up.
Did Alex leave too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Alex left. Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Department of Transportation has 58,000 employees. 82% of them work for the FAA.
Yeah, that's wild.
Basically, no wonder why they can't launch rockets out of
this is a very dumb question. I mean, I don't like, what do they do? I would love to understand. Like, I don't mean that in like they must not be doing anything. I'm more just like genuinely curious, like what do all of those people do? What do they?
I would be curious myself too. And I don't think this is just total like first gut instinct. I definitely don't think majority of these people are necessary.
We have no idea what's going on. You know what I mean? Like who knows what they're doing? Really? Like we honestly have no clue. That's why I'm hesitant to say like we don't need all of them. I would, if I had to guess, like I would say maybe we could probably figure out ways to not need 58,000 of them. But like, again, I don't know what they do. I mean, obviously I know they regulate, air travel, and there's a lot of air travel, and it's, when there's thousands of planes in the sky, it's like, how do you keep that organized? Good question. It's probably a big task. Probably requires a lot of people, but beyond that, I don't know. I mean, I guess they probably regulate the new designs and manufacturing and all that stuff. So maybe that's part of it. I don't know. Hey, but pull up. Oh shoot! In preparation for Andrew coming on, he just did a post. Pull this up. I just sent it in the chat. Let's get back on this. Let's get back on this Uber Freight topic for the end of this. Oh, there he is. Oh, bro, you put a shirt on. What the heck?
Yeah, I had to put a shirt on.
What's up?
Good morning.
You just wake up and fire from the hip before you even put a shirt on?
No, I had a workout this morning, so I came back, showered, and sat down on my computer to I had to make a post because I released a Freight Pod episode about the whole ordeal. I didn't quite realize how much chaos that was going to cause.
I don't think anybody did, to be honest with you. That was it was surprising.
So did you just read that Uber's announcement and you were just like, what the heck?
Dude, I was sitting in my underwear on my couch yesterday morning at 7. I read it. I mean, I read it, and my first thought, I said this in my podcast, but my first thought was like, this is kind of ridiculous. It's positioned like this magically innovative thing that's, those first couple of sentences, like transformation and innovation and evolution. And
Andrew, if you launch something like that, would you do it? Would you, from a marketing perspective, would you do it differently? Would you downplay it?
Well, it's not downplay. I think it's just more like straightforward is my perspective. I think the freight tech companies in our space have not made a great name for themselves historically with how they market. Convoy was extraordinary at marketing. But I think a big reason a lot of their competitors disagreed and didn't like them is because it felt like it was disingenuous. It felt like a lot of the things they were suggesting were super innovative. Were not. And we, most of us were not surprised by what happened with Convoy, by what happened with Transfix, by what's happened with any of these companies. Most of us that understand what's going on, we're not surprised. It's just frustrating for those of us that are like honest competitors that are like out here doing like brokering loads the right way. And brokerage has such a negative rapport and connotation. And it's oftentimes because of deception. And that's what frustrates, I think, a lot of people is feeling like it's harder for us to do our job because other people don't do their job well,
When you say I genuinely actually am not, I'm asking more so just to be more aware of it. But when you say deception, like what, is there an example that comes to mind about like how you thought Convoy marketed it?
Like Convoy announcing the guaranteed primary thing as if it was like this fancy new thing they had come up with when in reality it was cost plus. Cost plus is like a very simple concept that, anybody could offer to their shippers, and most shippers will say no because there's not really a great way to benchmark and ensure you're getting pricing that's fair to the market. They come out and say, we've developed this fancy new thing called guaranteed primary, and it's just cost plus. So it's like, you can put as much lipstick on a pig as you want. It's still a pig.
Yeah, that's like just the classic kind of like tech marketing move, right? It's like every time Apple releases a new feature, all the Android people get all butthurt because they put some fancy name on it, and they're like, "Well, the Android's been doing that for 6 years." It's like, dude, like at the end of the day, like these people have to. I mean, there's only so much they can really do to push the envelope, and yeah, it definitely does feel disingenuous. I think the thing that I kind of grinds my gears the wrong way about all of them is like to the extent to which being subsidized by like big piles of venture money might skew, like it removes the profit motive, right?
That's like the overarching issue we all had with Uber and Convoy day one.
Yeah.
It was very clear they were subsidizing shipper cost to build the network. And it's like, can I blame a shipper for accepting that? Not really. I mean,
No.
You can enjoy lower rates for a year, 2 years. But to me, that feels like a bit of a disingenuous practice because it's almost bait and switch. And I mentioned this in my podcast episode, like I'm not like a definitive Uber hater. And it probably seems as if I am based on, posts like this. But like I've been happy to give them credit for cool things they've created. They were the first to come out with facility ratings. I mentioned this in my post.
Yeah.
Like that was an innovative thing that nobody had done. And they had an efficient way of doing it to give that feedback back to shippers. That's great. They deserve a ton of credit for that.
Yeah.
On the flip side, I remember when the business first started and they announced free quick pay for carriers, immediate free quick pay. If that was a long-term solution, it's an awesome tool to give to carriers. It's simply not feasible. There's no way to run a profitable business and do that. And that's the bait and switch. It's let me get you your capacity into my network. I know for a fact in the next, as the person doing that at some point down the road, I'm I'm going to charge you 2-3% and pay you in 2 days. I think it's 2% now is the number. So like, is it good for a carrier to get free quick pay for a year, 2 years? Yeah. But I don't know. I think those are the kind of things that, and maybe it's just, being guys who didn't have billions of dollars invested in our business to do things like this. Maybe that's why we're all a little bit jaded towards these companies. But I just think,
is that really innovative if it's not, and maybe it is, but is it innovative if it's not profitable and sustainable? Like, would you consider it to be innovative?
No, it won't be around if it doesn't become profitable and sustainable. So innovation is about moving us forward, like creating something that creates value for the world. And if it doesn't create value for the world, then we're wasting time. I'm not saying Uber can't be a super successful company in the logistics space. I just don't think they should be a broker. I think they've never been close to successfully brokering. I've heard horror stories about some of the service from some shippers. I think a lot of the challenges that some of these companies have is they hire some incredibly smart people, really, really smart people, and they let these really, really smart people make a lot of decisions without enough guidance from people who really understand freight. And I think you need to strike the right balance between these incredibly smart, tech-driven folks and the experienced freight people who have been doing this for 2 decades and understand the nuance of working with carriers and working with shippers. And I think a lot of these companies have had the idea that we're just going to innovate and build stuff, and we don't really care about the collateral damage along the way. So they're happy to try new things, even though it might screw over a bunch of shippers, a bunch of carriers along the way. We're on our own mission. And I think the challenge for me is the mission doesn't always seem aligned to a shipper or a carrier's vision as well. I mean, I've heard plenty of horror stories that don't add up there.
I think hasn't there been a decent amount of brokerages that have tried doing the market share capture, approach? How did you guys? I mean, did you guys take a similar? Didn't you guys take a similar approach or something similar like that to when you guys were Mola?
Yeah. So the difference for me in what we did was our goal was to get in with whichever shippers we could and prove ourselves to them. And for me, I'm like, the fastest way to prove yourself is to take as much freight as possible. Like, we want to be a top 5 player with every single shipper we work with. I was never worried about profit for like the first 6 to 12 months with a shipper. We wanted to be profitable on every load. Like, we absolutely wanted to be profitable on every load. But the difference was,
I think everybody ideally would want to be profitable.
Yeah, of course. But I think a lot of companies, the difference here is the freight tech companies that were doing the market share thing, they were giving pricing knowing that they were not going to make money on most of the loads. We were pricing freight expecting to make money on most of the loads. We would probably give a couple lanes on a bid if it was a new shipper where we underpriced. If we just were worried about getting in, like, hey, let's just get in the door. We could lose money on some of these loads. We need an opportunity to prove that we are a really good partner. For me, it was like, I just need you to know what it's like to work with my team, because I think our team was excellent at customer service and like made our customers happy. And it's so unfortunate because, I mean, the industry is so saturated that it's hard to help a shipper understand that until you actually move their loads. So when I'm selling to a shipper and say, hey, my team is excellent, you will love working with them, just give us a chance, they're like, okay, I've heard that 45,000 times in the last week. And so sometimes you have to get in on price and trust that the team will follow through. And that happened for us. I used to tell my team all the time, like, it's a blessing and a curse to be us. The curse is it's a lot harder for us to get in with new shippers because we're not going to pretend we're doing some fancy bullshit. We're just going to tell you straight up, hey, we're a freight broker. This is how we do it. We're good at execution. You'll love working with us.
Does the fancy bullshit work in a way because it isn't the 45th time somebody's heard that?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why they do it. That's why. That's why you create something called guaranteed primary. It sounds like it's a new thing, but it's not. It's cost plus. That's the problem.
So, but hold on. So this program here that Uber's coming out with, is basically the same thing as that Convoy for Brokers thing that they came out with a couple years ago, correct?
Yeah, it is. It's the same thing. It's
Yeah.
different now with Flexport because Flexport's not
Right. Yeah. Yeah. They're not a broker. They're not doing the brokerage anymore. They're just doing quote unquote Convoy for Brokers, or what they're calling it, the Convoy platform.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that, I guess that separation removes the concern that you kind of have stated in your initial post about double brokering, yada yada, all that stuff, correct?
Yeah, I mean, to me, if there's no broker involved here, this is an evolution of what DAT is, right?
Right.
Because DAT just makes the match, or I'm sorry, DAT just presents the match to you. You have to then do all the work after, and it's a great tool. Same with a truck stop. This is getting a little bit more entrenched in the actual execution. And you know, I think it's interesting. I don't know if I would ever use it for me. If I was okay, so let's say Uber split broker access off, or they sold off their brokerage and said, "Hey, we still have all the capacity in our tool. Who wants it?"
Yeah.
And I could see why small brokers would need that. I could see why small brokers would pay a little bit more to help develop their network. And maybe that's a great tool that works forever because there's always these new brokers popping up who need it. But to pretend that like there's not some conflict of interest while Uber is also hauling for all of the same customers they're getting freight. What do you think the Uber sales guy is saying? What is he going to say to Coca-Cola when he's bidding against broker X and he knows broker X uses Uber?
He's going to say broker X is getting all of his capacity on our app. So just give us the freight.
Sell of all time. I mean, it's just that to me is what's frustrating again to me is you read their article. It's very well written. It speaks very well about what the tool can do. It never even mentions this conflict. It just pretends it doesn't exist, and that's the deceptive part to me. Like if you're going to do it, be authentic.
What do you think? What do you think that they would say if they were right here, though? Do you think they would say, "Oh no, we're not doing that"? Of course, they're going to say that. What are they going to say?
They'd say there's a wall between the thing, and you don't know. There's always a wall, and there's always a way around the wall.
Yeah,
over the wall.
I mean, you see this sort of thing in other domains too, though. It's like, all these domains are going to say they're going to have a wall, right? Like Emerge runs all these bids, but they also have a brokerage. Like, do they not use bid data in their brokerage? I don't know. I'm sure they say they don't, but it seems to me like, I don't know. It just seems weird.
Emerge is another interesting one because they've got this kind of brokerage thing that's sitting beneath a procurement tool. And their brokerage is a little different than a traditional brokerage. I've looked at it and like, it's a little bit different. It's still brokering.
What's different about it?
Just how they contract with the carriers and how they bid on behalf of the carriers. It's a little bit more transparent with the shipper, who the underlying carriers are. It's just a little bit different. It's definitely, it's not like a MoLo brokerage in that respect. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I have no idea. I can't speak to that. I don't know enough. But Emerge is, I think they offer their procurement tool for free, and then they want you to give them some business on the side. It's an interesting deal. It's different.
It's in this world where everyone is like kind of lives and dies by their data, and everyone's very kind of, because there is very little differentiation on the surface between companies, and it really all comes down to the people. But that can't really come through, to your point, like in your sales pitch when you're saying, you're going to love my team, and everyone else says the same thing. It's just like, it's very difficult to kind of have that legitimately come through prior to actually working with somebody, right? And so when that's the case, it's like, it just creates this environment that's super just not trusting of each other. Like everyone's kind of like always looking over their shoulder. We just assume if somebody has XYZ data, they're going to use it for, just for their own personal gain and all that stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, like, is that just always going to be the case, or long term does this change? Like, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, at the end of the day, I feel like for the system to be as efficient as possible, like this all just kind of needs to come out in the open long term. I don't know what that means exactly. Maybe it's fucking shipper CRM. I don't know, but Like long term, how can we just forever just be operating where everyone's just trying to hide everything from everyone else? And I'm just kind of rambling, but
yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, there's always information available. I mean, what the next frontier is going to be shippers starting their own brokerages.
Well,
you're going to see the big guys start to do that, and
interesting view.
Just to move their own freight, or
no, to leverage their own freight to build a better network.
Yeah.
I've always believed like there are 4 things. I mean, one of the most important pieces to building an effective brokerage or a great brokerage is resources. I mean, it's just it's hard to compete with Uber, and it used to be harder to compete with Convoy when they still had money. But like when somebody has $1 billion to play with, how do you compete with that? It's hard. So like resources matter, but resources aren't just cash. Shippers have resources. They have their own freight. And if you want to create an efficient network, if I know I own the lane from Chicago to Dallas and I know I'll never lose it, it's a lot easier for me to go to another shipper and say, hey, give me your Dallas to Chicago. We'll create a loop. You'll see the same driver every day for the next 10 years. You'll get to know his kids.
Can you walk us through real quick through the case of why it would actually make sense fundamentally for a shipper to be able to want to spin up its own?
Yeah, sure.
Brokerage.
So let's say a shipper has $200 million in freight spend. They give $100 million to brokers and they give $100 million to asset-based carriers. Of the $100 million they're giving to brokers, it's fair to assume that there's a 10 to 15% margin that those brokers are taking on it.
Yep.
10 to 15 million bucks that is available for someone. And if you're going to start your own brokerage and you can get that 100 out of those brokers' hands and into your own hands, that's 10 to 15 million dollars of margin you can make back. And on top of that, you also, again, it just comes back to having the right resources in a competitive market. If you have enough freight, you have a massive advantage over a lot of your competitors. And if you're a shipper, you probably have relationships with other shippers because of the vendor relationships. That could make it easier to work with them. I mean, it just,
you create like a little co-op type thing.
Yeah, the further and further along we go, the harder and harder it is to differentiate with the thousands and thousands of new brokers that are coming all the time. Even though the number's trending down right now, it'll go back up. Once the market starts to get good, everybody will start their own brokerage again. And so I just think it's a matter of like in a competitive landscape, if you know you can have an edge against the market, why wouldn't you want to play in it? And then if you also know you can recoup some of the revenue from that others are making off of you, why not do it?
So I'm clueless about this, but are there what examples are there right now of shippers owning their own brokerages? Are there any?
Pepsi is probably the best one. Pepsi's got a
subsidiary that they created.
Yes.
Subsidiary, and they tendered that freight from Pepsi to that brokerage, right?
Yes. So
now that brokerage, is it only accepting tenders from Pepsi itself, or is it accepting tenders from other manufacturers?
No, yeah, because that would make sense. So it's called
Right.
Pepsi Logistics, PLCI, Pepsi Logistics Company Incorporated, something like that.
Okay.
I don't know what percent of Pepsi's freight they take. I do know that they probably get, first look at a lot of the freight and they take what they can, and then they go sell to other shippers. I doubt they're hauling for Coca-Cola, but there are thousands of other companies out there that they could be hauling for, and it's like nearly $1 billion business. I could be wrong on the revenue, but it's a sizable business.
So I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around is like who that benefits, in the sense of it makes sense to me maybe why Pepsi would want to do that, because if, like you said, the broker, let's say, takes a margin of 15%, is that effectively just a workaround to try to take a 15% discount on the transportation cost?
Sorry, can you repeat that one more time? I got a text and looked at it. I shouldn't have. Sorry.
No worries. It's okay. So is Pepsi creating this brokerage mainly to try to come up with some, I guess you can maybe call it clever way to get a 15% discount on their transportation costs, because they recoup that 15% through their brokerage since it's a subsidiary? Like, is that what the thought process is there? Or
yeah, I mean, you could call it a discount, or you could it's kind of like a where's the money going deal. But yes, I mean they're getting some of the money back if they keep it. If they can create an entity that they own, like it's like there's two entities. One is all the other brokers, and one is Pepsi's brokerage. And if Pepsi gives 100 million to the other brokerage, they get zero of that back. If they give 100 million to the Pepsi brokerage and that Pepsi brokerage does 15% margins, they get the 15% back, or the 10% or 8% or 20%, whatever the number is, doesn't matter.
Interesting.
It's not a common thing. Like we're deep on this thing I just threw out there as
Yeah.
No, but it makes a lot of sense. I mean, I obviously easier said than done, or else everyone would do it. But like I mean, it makes a lot of sense to me. Because all of a sudden that sell, like if you're a sales rep working for Pepsi Logistics, that walking into XYZ shipper who your company probably already has a relationship with because they're a vendor or you share vendors or anything like that, that's a different kind of position to be in versus being Joe Schmo from Molo walking into the building, right? I mean, very
100%.
different.
I mean, think about it, man. One of the two hardest parts of this business is just getting an opportunity with a new customer. And it's so hard to be different today because most of them aren't. And the closer we get to the world where brokers are all using companies like Uber to procure capacity, and there won't be many of them, I don't think, but like play that situation out. I talked about this on my podcast. I said, this is what the future, if this plays out the way that they're talking about, this is what the future of small brokers will look like. So you'll have salespeople who go try to sell to customers. And when you get loads, they'll be scheduled by companies like Queued. So you won't need like people scheduling the loads. They'll be tracked, and inbound calls will be answered by FleetWorks and Happy Robot and AI tools like that. And apparently you won't even need carrier sales reps because the loads will just get put on the Uber platform. And so at that point, what are you doing as the broker? When you go to call, and so basically the whole team is salespeople.
Correct.
And you
That's
call
the only part.
Hey, let me haul for you. I'm special. And they're like, how are you special? And you're like, well,
that's where it comes down to relationship.
All these tools that everyone else also uses. And
I've said the same thing. It's basically where it's trending will be everything but the customer sales is the part that gets automated. And you can really think about it when it boils down to it. It's like, hey, if I know you and you're my friend and I trust you to take care of it, and you offer similar service as somebody else that's proposing to be my vendor, I'll go with you just simply because I'm your friend and I'll help you out. And that's how things work. It's family relationships or friend relationships or whatever it is. And I think that's the one piece that just naturally won't get replaced for sure. So, but I've always had this stance where end to end, all operational related stuff. Like if the moment that it really became clear to me that brokerages, like there was a even remote possibility that brokerages could get automated. And I know for some people it might be, a scary thought, but this is maybe a couple of years at least away, was when everybody during COVID started moving their brokerages to be completely working remotely. And you saw that you didn't need physical presence. You needed a computer, you needed a couple monitors, you needed a keyboard and mouse, phone and email. And all of those things are now being like wrapped into the world of AI, whether it's capturing video on the screen, capturing what you're typing, capturing your voice, all that stuff. Like it's trending all towards that direction. So with Andrew, I would definitely agree. It's like customer sales side is the one part that's going to be always, really important. Customer service, customer sales.
Why? Why though?
So hold on. I don't agree that this is where it's going to go though. I'm just saying if everyone were to buy into this, this is where it could go. And I should add a caveat that I think one of the comments Brooks made in his post was that he essentially said, you should use this because our network is tens of thousands of small carriers, owner operators. And that's what Convoy was too. And I think what these guys were really good at was finding these lanes that were local, regional. Like Convoy was Niagara's biggest provider. And a lot of Niagara's lanes that they were running were like 50 miles, 60 miles, short runs, $250, $300 a load. And once you develop some density there, the system can do it all because there should be enough trucks that are interested to always get that. And one of Brooks' points was, use us for the small and owner operator carriers, and use your carrier team to develop relationships with the larger carriers. And I guess that could make sense. Again, I only say it makes sense if Uber doesn't have a brokerage on the side. This is all caveated against that point. But an interesting thing to consider. Do you know how many times I've had to call someone who I've never spoken to before, who's sitting at their house, and tried to convince or beg them to leave their house to pick up a load for me? And it's a lot. And the reality is, these are people who aren't sitting looking for loads. They're at home because they're not trying to work today, or they're going to take a day off. But if you're an excellent broker, I mean, if your service is really, really good, you can't just rely on the technology to provide the capacity, because the capacity isn't always where the technology is offering it. Like, it's not always there.
There's a lot of dark capacity in a sense of like it's just hidden. It's not on the internet.
It's not even necessarily looking for loads, or it's looking for loads, but it's not on the app. And that's where you need people to step in. I have a belief that the Convo Uber companies were capable of being excellent at service in pockets. When they found the right density, when they found the right lanes, it was a home run solution. The problem is, shippers aren't. When you bid on a freight for a shipper, you're one of a number of providers, and it's never been the most collaborative approach. Shippers try to be collaborative sometimes and say, hey, what lanes do you want? Prioritize. But it almost never works out all the way you want, because, there's 20 of us and most of us want similar lanes. There are good lanes, there are bad lanes, but then we all have our own networks that are a little bit different, that we know we can buy better than others. And those are pockets that work for everyone. But a shipper doesn't always give you what you want. And so the problem becomes, if I'm Uber and I bid on 50 lanes, and I know those are my perfect 50 lanes, or Convo, any of these companies, but I get awarded 25 lanes, 10 of them were the ones I wanted, and 15 are different ones. That happens all the time. If the system isn't good at everything, but you still have these loads, there's a reasonable chance that you're not going to perform to the numbers you need to. You're certainly not going to perform as well as a business like ours, where we had personal accountability across the board. We had regional teams, all based on inbound, where the freight was going, and the teams were accountable to the freight. Now, we didn't have the most efficient way of covering all the loads. We didn't have all of it moving digitally, but we got all the loads covered, and our customers loved us for it. And that, to me, is a challenge. If there's a point maybe where they get really, really big and they have enough density to cover the whole thing. But I guess this point maybe is moot, because they're not saying we should cover all your freight. They're saying we should cover some of it. So, I don't know. That's just my extra 2 cents.
No, I think actually, I think, yeah. So based off of that, I'll refine what I said. I didn't mean to say like that. Actually, 100% of the brokerage will get automated. It will be more so that a large portion of it will get automated, but there will be maybe 40% of the brokerage which will just start to become absolutely exceptional at exception management. And there's just so many different varying exceptions, as you said. Like, sometimes you have to call somebody you don't know, beg them to go and get the delivery done, and that's not on the customer side, that's on the capacity side too, right? So it's customer sales would be one area that's going to be that's always going to be there, and then there's going to be that exception management where the human element will always be pretty important. So,
dude, just be careful to say always, man. Just be careful, man.
Yeah,
always is a strong word. Who the heck knows, bro? 15 years, 20 years goes by. I mean, who knows?
That's true. That's true too.
I mean, just never say never, man. Never say never. You just don't know what's going to happen.
Well, I'll be the first one to say I changed my mind on it, but as of right now, it looks like it should be that way. So, but anyway, we're up on time here for today, boys. So
thanks for coming on, Andrew.
Awesome. Thanks, Andrew, for coming on. Really great having you here, and hope everybody found it valuable. We're back with Craig next week. Craig for DOT secretary. We'll be making his case. Yeah.
So
I'm sure Trump will be watching.
yeah. Oh yeah, dude. He tunes in every week. It's gonna be great. All right.
All right,
Dope.
guys.
Later, guys.
Bye.